picked up young men and paid for motel rooms. That was part of Hollywood then, as well as now. I knew many of the secrets of the sun-washed community that was my beat, and I also guessed that the folks in Hollywood were no better or worse than the people in any other American city. Jimmy was a friend, not one I could ever depend on, except possibly in a barroom brawl. He was gutsy and not afraid of getting hurt. He rarely picked up a tab. He didn't call when promised, didn't give back what was borrowed, didn't do what he had said he would do. I never knew exactly what he wanted or hoped for from me, and I never knew what I wanted or hoped for from him. In retrospect, it seems to me that I felt by being around him something was about to happen, or was already happening, but I just wasn't smart enough to get it. He was fascinating to be with and watch. There was the way he moved. He could lift a glass of water to his mouth with an intensity and grace that made it seem he had never before touched a glass, never carried that particular weight through the air. What he said wasn't especially smart or memorable. It was the way he said it that made it interesting, the delivery and the hand gestures. I never felt I was a disciple and should take notes because they would be valuable someday, nor did I realize that I was lucky to be his friend until years later when he became a legend. There was an afternoon, warm and sunny, and Jay was home from school and wasn't happy. "He's been like that all afternoon," said Ellie. I realized my son was upset by something, but I had a column to write on deadline and left it to her to sort out. Then a few hours later there was the roar of the motorcycle, Jay's shrieks of joy, and Jimmy's arrival. Jimmy saw, even sooner than I had, that something was wrong with Jay, and put aside the packages of ice cream, barely acknowledged my presence and that of Ellie, and took Jay aside. I tried to listen to their conversation, not as a journalist, but as a father, but I could make out little of it. Soon, Jay's smile was back. The packages of ice cream were opened, and we were all sitting on the floor laughing at something. Only a long time later did I learn that the mailman had been frightening Jay with stories about a boogeyman who came in the night and carried off children to eat them. That was how the mailman made it through his day, terrifying children. I don't know what James Dean said to Jay to do away with his fears, but he did so casually, effortlessly, and completely. What I do remember is what Jay said excitedly after he left. "Jimmy says he can go so fast on his motorcycle that no one can see him." On October 1st, 1955, I was in Mexico City to interview the actor Cantinflas, who was filming a cameo role for Around the World in 80 Days. Bill Blowitz, press agent on the film, and I had just finished breakfast when we went by the hotel newsstand. I noticed a copy of the Saturday New York Herald Tribune on the rack and glanced at the front page. In the lower right-hand corner was the headline, "Film actor James Dean, 24, killed in sports car crash." I must have turned to ashen, because Bill asked me if I was all right. "Jimmy Dean's been killed," I said, and handed the paper to him. "He asked me to go with him to the race in Salinas yesterday just before we left L.A." As Bill read the story, I had conflicting thoughts. I wanted to call home and tell Ellie to be careful how she broke the news to Jay, who I knew would be devastated. Then I realized that the news was a day old. I felt strongly that there was something that I, a newsman and friend, should be doing about Jimmy's death. I wanted to add something human and personal to the wire service report that my paper had put on the front page. I called my editor in New York, who said, "Dean was really not that well known to warrant much more space than we've already given him." I realized he was right. Of the 3 pictures Jimmy had starred in, only one, East of Eden, had been released, and although his performance was acclaimed by the critics, the general public was scarcely aware of him. There was no way that I or anyone else at that time could predict the impact his death would have on young people all over the world. After Jimmy died, his second and third pictures, Rebel Without a Cause and Giant, were released, and his fans grew.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.